So even though the heart is pumping blood, it actually does not use any of the oxygen or nutrients as it is pumping the blood. So it's not like it can diffuse across the oxygen and nutrients from the inside of the heart. So the heart, like all of your other structures in your body, even your lungs, for example, actually have their own blood supply. Even your blood vessels actually have their own blood supply. Your heart has its own blood supply. And so this is what is referred to as the coronary circulation. So this is delivering oxygen and nutrients, to the heart itself, specifically the heart muscle. So we'll put like nutrients to the, what is the heart muscle called? It is called, that layer is called the myocardium. Okay. So the coronary circulation, you probably have heard of coronary arteries. So coronary arteries are carrying oxygen-rich blood. You'll notice that they, both of those are at the base of the aorta. So it's a very short, right, passage from the left ventricle out and then immediately into these coronary arteries. So they're carrying O2-rich, nutrient-rich blood out. The blood vessels that carry the blood back are actually called cardiac veins. So they're not coronary veins. You got to remember that they are cardiac veins. So you need to know the difference between the coronary arteries and the cardiac veins. One of the interesting things about this is that they actually pump the blood back to the right atrium eventually, but first it goes into the coronary sinus. So there is a coronary, and anytime we talk about a sinus, that is like a enlarged space, right? So this fills up with blood, and then this, from the coronary sinus, we go into the right atrium, where that blood is then going to be pumped out to the lungs and then back, and then maybe out to the body. So when we talk about the arteries, we'll talk about atherosclerosis, for example, but sometimes we can get a blockage of the artery. So let's say we have a blocked artery right here. And so what that means is that this part of the heart muscle is not getting oxygen and nutrients, and it can actually die, right, and be replaced with scar tissue. So we call this, when we have a blocked artery, this can lead to what is referred to as the myocardial infarction. So this is a heart attack. So this can be due to a blocked coronary artery. And you could have small heart attacks, which leave your heart just weaker and weaker and weaker until eventually it will stop. And we'll talk about some examples of heart disease. When you hear about people talking about bypass surgeries, one of the things that they sometimes do is they build a bypass around that blockage. So you can talk about a single bypass, a double bypass, a triple, a quadruple bypass, right? That means that there are different blockages that they have to build blood vessels around in order to get them to the blood can be supplied. Sometimes they can go in, if your blood vessels are narrowed, sometimes they can go in with a stent, and they can put a little mesh stent in there that opens the blood vessels, and then you could also use a little balloon to open the blood vessels back up. But we'll talk about that more when we talk about atherosclerosis, which is that plaque buildup in the blood vessels themselves.